Welcome. Today, Lauren and Christine and I are going to be talking about sun transits 31 and 33. And we're going to be exploring around, seeing what we can learn and what we can sort of play with over the next two periods of 5.5 days. So maybe, Christine, you'd like to sort of start us on sun transit 31 and see what we can find out.
Yeah, I'm totally happy to do that. Also, I just realized we sometimes go back and look at the
Hmm.
gate we were just exiting too. I didn't know, does anybody have any gate 56, which is what we're coming out of? That was the stimulation, the wanderer, energy. Anything anybody wanted to cover about any of that?
You know what? I'll share a little story. So I'm stepping into a new venture of selling my vegetable and herb products at a little local farm store. But the farm store caters to meat eaters. It is a meat-based CSA. I am not a meat eater. I'm a vegan. The vegetables I grow are specialty vegetables. The herbs I grow are not your herbs you would find at the grocery store. They're a little bit off on the edges. But I had this great opportunity to come there and share um my harvest, I guess we would say. And so I was a traveler in an area that I'm not from. And these folks are not necessarily my community. And I've been playing with that the entire transit of how do I stay true to myself and what it is I'm here to serve and how I'm serving, and how do I also bridge and serve this community without offending them. And it's been a fascinating dance, and I noticed myself going, well, this isn't going to work, I can't do this, and then the next day going, oh, maybe I'll try it this way. So I think for me, that's what that gate was about.
As you're sharing, I realized something really significant came up for me in this one is we closed on a new place and I'm moving from a city of 1.5 million to a town of 14,000. So there's going to be a cultural shift, not dissimilar from the one that you're talking about, Lauren.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I until were talking, that hadn't actually dropped for me. So that's
Well, and Lois, you just pointed out that's what we do in community, but through our conversations is we come to more awareness. And I think every time the three of us gather here, we each come with our own insights. And I'm talking on a higher level here, though, but it's in our conversation that things open up.
Yeah. No, that's super interesting for both of you because again, gate 56 is this storyteller energy, right? And what story are we telling, right? About our own life. And the voice of gate 56 is I believe, right? And so dancing through around like what do I believe? How can I, incorporate my beliefs and what my story is into these new places and new stories and new storylines, right? I think it's just really interesting to hear both of you really talk about this energy very specifically. Um, so yeah, I agree, Lauren. Like the conversations, like I can sit down and prep for these things, but it's not until we're actually in conversation, I think that the really juicy stuff shows up, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, so gate 56 is where we just came out of. We're recording this a little bit into this gate 31 transit this time around. And so they are interesting in that this whole period that we've been in, and I hadn't really made this connection until just, yesterday actually, this long stretch of time, from a human design perspective, we've been in a bunch of collective gates, right? So this collective energy is very much about the collective, like the world, everybody in the world. How are we being with one another as an individual, right? So it has a real sharing energy. Like, how am I sharing myself with the collective? And we continue that in that space for this whole essentially Leo season, right? We are definitely all all these energies are collective in nature, all about sharing. And so I just think that as an underlying theme to really just be thinking about that, like how are you looking out at the collective and how are you interfacing with the rest of the world just in the ways you guys just described, right? Like things are changing around me, I'm changing within it, I'm trying to figure out where my footing is in this space. I think this is very much what we're all going to be feeling in gate 31. So it's called the gate of leading, right? Like this energy is about it's about democratic leadership, really. Even though it can get misused, what it really wants to do is be invited in to share its strengths and gifts and wisdom and to have influence, right? This is the hexagram is influence. And so strangely, this whole period, this gate 31 that we're in right now, and for the next few weeks, this energy, the alpha channel energy, the 31, gate 31 and gate 7, there's a lot of that energy flowing throughout because the sun and Mercury are both in and out of these gates. And so I really think this whole time is going to be, there's going to be some leadership things that come up for all of us. Maybe out in the collective, again, like who's leading us? What's this global leadership problem happening? What's this power over structure that we've been ensconced in? Like, how is this showing up? And I would expect that we're going to start seeing some changes. And also, I think we're each individually going to be called to step into some of our own leadership in a really big way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited about this gate. I also want to call out that we've just come into Leo season. So we're coming into that shining and how are we going to shine in the world? And this is what I see this gate calling us to, that the I Ching question that Hilary Barrett brings forward is, what is your place in life? And when I think about that, I think that is the big question. What is our place? And I think, we've come out of some really muddled months and challenging times of like, what is happening? And all of a sudden, we're here at this gate. It's like, so what are you going to do? What's your place? And then next, how are you going to manage that?
Yeah. How are you going to manage? I have this gate in my profile. And when I started reading the Gene Keys, and I look at the Shadow of Arrogance, I was like, yeah. and I thought it was funny because like all of my life, arrogance has been in the shadow of you can't be that, right? And so I was sort of looking at even my reaction to, well, God, that's part of your shadow or part of your profile. And so it was like just sitting and starting to have a little bit of fun with like, okay, so how does that show up and what does that actually mean in my life? And all of the shadows are supposed to, I mean, they hold the essence of what can grow. Uh, so recognizing that part of the problem is we don't see it in ourselves, right? And it's so hard, and until we're ready to see it, it's just not going to happen because people can tell us, and we just get mad.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I think this arrogance piece is really important. And again, I see it very much in this collective space, right? Like I think about us and, us in America as a very arrogant nation, right? We are not willing to look at ourselves very deeply. We are not comfortable with, people questioning us, right? Like all of the, like we assume a lot of things about how the world is and how we get to be in it. And the city is in the gene key is humility, right? And so this idea that we should be, true leaders are humble servants, right? They are here for the best and the highest vision of all, working towards that. Now, of course, we don't always actually make that happen. We're human, we have flaws, but the goal, right, is to humbly serve. And that is exactly what this energy is saying, right? Like, hey, that's where the real juiciness is, right? It's when we show up and we do what we can in the kindest and, most humble way, and be willing to look at where we are in our shadow, right? And where we are being arrogant, where we think we know more than others, right? Where we think that we should have control and power over others, right? Like this is a real sticking point. And so, again, this energy shows up for us every year. And so I did a little bit of just, Google research on like, do leadership things come up on a regular basis in this July, August period? And, again, it's hard to say that it doesn't happen all year long, but there were a lot of things over the course of recent history that seem to show up in this time frame, right? So I just think it's a really interesting time to pay attention to this leadership piece because we are all really needing to be much more empowered to be our own leaders and to lead those closest to us in this very democratic, humble way.
Well, I have something really that I think tails right into that, Christine, and to your sharing, Lois. And so when we look at being humble yet leading, I think one of the most beautiful trees that personifies that is the oak tree. And the oak tree is the ruling tree of the woods. Yet it is democratic in how it operates, and it shares its space equally with the shrubs and the taller trees. And it also, its job is to improve the soil so the other trees can live. I mean, if we can't find a more fitting example of this time period, I don't know. And the essence of oak gemotherapy is rooted strength. And so when I go back to this question Hillary Barrett puts forth of what is your place, and we can't find our place when we're unrooted, when we're until and not grounded. And that's what we'll say. I don't know where my place is here. And I think we're in a time that's pushing us to feel that way because everything that we thought we were clinging to is disappearing. So I could keep going on this, but I really would love to suggest you work with oak this period. And that starts today on the 25th and takes you right through next week on the 30th. And oak is powerful. So you'll have to feel into that. Maybe you just need one drop for the whole cycle, but one each day for those that feel like it's speaking to their system in a positive way.
Yeah, I love that because oak is also that tree that it is a real democratic tree. Like it lives everywhere, right? There's all sorts of them. They seem to hybridize fairly easily too. Like there's all sorts of different kinds of oaks that just kind of play well together, right? Like there's just this really interesting oak energy. It's kind of funny to think about it that way.
Yeah, well, Christine, I mean, I just have to share one more thing. I mean, I can be talking about oak or any tree for on and on, but it is the tree that increases biodiversity more than any other tree. So if you're looking at improving the biodiversity of land, you bring in oaks. And so what a perfect thing for us right now. That's what we're trying to do is bring in biodiversity and acceptance of all that comes forward.
Interesting and a big goal to
Yeah.
have. Before when I was saying like we can't see ourselves, and so it's a very difficult sort of shift. And I was thinking about how might we see ourselves, because this is definitely something where ego gets involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to vilify ego here because it's necessary. But and then I started thinking about this related to the polyvagal work that we've done. And when ego gets involved, we get mobilized in some way. So I was thinking that if we paid attention to when we get mobilized,
Yeah.
And then just take a minute to consider, is this something that's going to serve me and the community? Or is it something I'm just going to do because I want, or I need to win, or I need to have power over? That would give people some way of sort of figuring out, because because the things wouldn't happen in our world without ego energy. All of the inventions that get made and changes that happen are because people have had agendas and they've pushed things through. And when that's done for the greater good, that's really important. But this, on the other hand, when it's happening just because I need to better me, that's a different thing. So being able to look at, am I just doing this for me? Or does it serve some greater purpose? Right. And then you can decide. Then you've got a
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah. 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 I love that, Lois. It's true, right? Like this is a real outwardly focused, active energy, right? It's a throat gate in human design. It wants to move, it wants to make things happen, right? And it's an interesting, segue into this next gate, which is 33, also an active throat gate, also a collective energy, but the name of this gate is privacy in human design, or retreat is the hexagram name, right? So it's interesting that that, as you were just saying, we have to look at how we're behaving in the world. Well, gate 33, when we get there on July 30th, will probably be real supportive energy for that, right? Because this is the energy that wants to pull back, look at all the things that it has been receiving, that have been coming its way, all the stories that have been, it's been told, because this energy does get told a lot of stories and secrets and things. It's like a collector of experiences in some ways, right? But it collects them up, and then it needs to like go away for a while and process, right? And so this time to really process what it is we've been hearing, and what to make of it and what to let go of, right? Like, what this energy is very much about, like, what's really important here, what do people in the future need to know, and what isn't, right? Like, and so it's a discerning energy, it's a culling energy, and it really is a quiet, and it needs quiet space, and it happens to be happening right around the same time that Mercury is in retrograde, right? So there's going to be, I think, a lot of energy between this July 30th and August 4th, where we are just really ready to take a step back and quietly try to figure out what it is that is important to us and important to the people around us and important for the world, and just try to let the rest of it go away.
It too, it's almost like it's the antidote um, for 31, in terms of like, I can't see what's going on. And it's like, now here's your opportunity to see. And that by stepping back, and in Gene Keys, talks about mindfulness being the path. And so that ability to be mindful and start seeing yourself, that self-reflective quality. And when that self-reflective quality comes alive, then there's possibilities. There's new possibilities coming. And I know, like in coaching, is that if a person doesn't have reflective quality, they can't look at themselves. You can't coach them because they can't see what they need to be changing or what isn't working. So that ability to be able to look at yourself, and in the coaching I do, we objectify an aspect of a person so that they can look at it. We give them a metaphor, and then we talk about the metaphor rather than the person, so that it just makes it a little easier to do. But once you can do that, that's what's going on. And now we can work on on it. And that's what I see in this gene key 33 or sun transit 33, however we want to identify it.
Christine, look like you have to add something.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something, but no, I was just going to say yes. I think that very much this energy, I carry this energy, this gate 33. It's very high in my design, and it is it's a polarity, right? The polarity of it, the Earth, while the sun is in gate 33, the Earth is in gate 19, which is approach, right? So these are some of the strongest polarities in human design. Gate 33 is retreat. Gate 19 is approach, right? And so these energies are always playing within us in this polarity, right? Like we will still, even though this is a time where we may feel very heavily this need to step back, it is also true that there's other energies at play, right? That want us to dig in and jump in and go and do, right? And so just being aware of that. Um, and something you said, Lois, I can't quite remember, but what you were talking about in the gene key, the city is revelation, right? Oh, the ability to see yourself, right? Like you're uncoachable if you can't see yourself, right? And so this ability to have yourself revealed to yourself, to have things be revealed in the world, right? It's you have to be able to look in, right? So, yeah, I just think this is going to be an interesting time to do that. It is the keynote sentence of this energy is active withdrawal and the transformation of a weak position into a strength, right? And so I think that that's a really interesting, like the need to retreat in order to assess and then transform, right? It's all part of a very typical cycle that we do all the time. It's just a real time to be really mindful about it, which is the gift of this energy, mindfulness.
And a
Yeah.
wonderful practice, just
Yeah.
being mindful.
Sorry, Lois.
Oh, it's just the practice, just being mindful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I have a Gemmo that will help you with that. But before I get into it, I want to present the question that Hillary brings forth in Hexagram 33 is what must you do to stay safe and whole? So the only way you're going to be able to answer that question is to reflect. That we want to be able to answer that question from a place of responding, not reacting. And so then that requires a pause. And I like further into her writings on Hexagram 33 is that she talks about retreat is moving away from the threat, but moving towards wholeness and integrity, which brings me to the walnut tree. And that is exactly what the walnut tree does. It is always spotted away from the stand of trees. So very different energy than oak. So oak not only creates an environment to bring folks in and create this biodiverse planting, walnut repels anything from growing under it that might be of threat. Now, having grown many walnut trees now, I know things will grow under the walnut tree, but not anything that the walnut tree believes to be a threat. And so when we think of the extract for ourselves, the essence is shielding. And what that shielding does is provide you with the opportunity to step away from what may be harmful, unsafe, a threat, and regain your own autonomy so that then you can go back out and do the work you're here to do. I've seen absolute miracles happen with folks using walnut, and it can actually be used for long periods of time, which is lovely. But if you haven't used it before or never thought of it in this light, this would be the perfect opportunity to work with it during the 31st of July through the 4th of August. And and see what comes up. I think it will also be incredibly supportive during this Mercury retrograde period of keeping us withdrawn, because that's the whole purpose of Mercury's work, is pulling us back. And that's why all of our appointments go haywire, and all of our attempts to work outside of that.
I think this is really interesting because it's bringing up for me actually the walnut and oak combination, which is actually the combination that brought our family really
Oh my
into,
gosh.
right, taking care of ourselves pretty much through that combination on a staph infection that brought the whole family into this idea about, I think in many ways, about leadership, right? About, oh, we can lead ourselves. We can have some personal sovereignty around our health, right? And so I just think it's really, I don't know why this is coming up other than the fact that we just talked about these two side by side, but I don't know. I feel like there's something there.
Gosh, Christine, I mean, that was almost a decade ago, right? At least. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you think about it, a staph infection is dangerous and it is a threat. And so, and you were not the first family that experienced this action of these two together, and the power in not only shifting your viewpoint on being autonomous with your health, but also going out and sharing that with others.
But that of being autonomous with your health, but that being self-responsible,
Oh, I love that.
because they've been for so long, people have given over their autonomy, their authority with their health to the medical system. And so that, like, I'm an active participant in my health. That's like then we're leaders.
Hmm.
And even if we're in working with a team of,
Well, and I,
go
Yeah.
ahead, Chris.
sorry, I'm lagging here. I think I'm talking over y'all. I'm sorry about that. Um, yeah, and again, like I just repeat this statement on gate 33. It's active withdrawal and the transformation of a weak position into a strength, right? Like we were really nervous about this staph infection. I was really nervous about giving my kid rounds of antibiotics. And all of a sudden we had this whole new way, this weakness that we had in a child who seemed, prone to staph infections. All of a sudden we were like, we got this. We're totally cool. We've got a thing that totally works whenever we need it, right? And so yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a really interesting. It would be amazing if it was actually in August or the end of July.
You're going to have to check.
That would have been yeah, I know.
They're just like listening is how empowering that is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's available to us all, right? Now, maybe it's not Gemmo therapy, maybe it's not homeopathy view, but there are lots of modalities that are out in the world that help many people in many ways, right? And we are moving very much into this time where more and more people are recognizing, hey, this thing that we used to do, it worked for a while. It's not working so much anymore. We've got all these other things that are showing up, right? I just need to be open, right? I can't be arrogant about what it is that is right or wrong. I have to be open and mindful, right? And these are the two energies that we're really working with right now. I'm open and I'm paying attention, right? And paying attention is really the dilemma of gate 33, right? Like, what do we pay attention to? Where do we give away our attention, right? What are the things that we're bringing into our attention that aren't actually serving us, right? And we have plenty of examples of those. And that's where the retreat comes in, where the self-reflection comes in, right? Is this actually working for me, or not?
Well, I like the fact that the city for gate 33 is Revelation, and you just had one while we were talking.
a day of revelations for us.
Yeah.
Lovely. Wow. There. It feels like we just went to complete all of a sudden again.
Yeah.
So thank you for
We
being
can
with
do
us. I
that.
hope we see you next time.